L was the detective in Death Note trying to catch Kira, but was L evil? Now, in the Death Note Relight movie, L says a line of how he's only afraid of monsters who care about themselves and destroy others' dreams. Monsters that tell nothing but lies. They seek friendship, but they do not know how to love. He says, if I were to encounter such monsters, I would likely be eaten by them, because in truth, I am that monster. Which almost indicates he's trying to say he views himself as evil or a monster. And he had mentioned that there's monsters that always lie, and he had also implied that to Light before, asking Light during Death Note, tell me, Light, from the moment you were born, has there ever been a moment where you told the truth? Suspecting Light as one of those monsters he feared, a monster like himself, probably assuming he was evil just like himself. And one thing L did mention was, there's some monsters who devour others' dreams, and that's exactly what L was doing, because he was devouring Kira's dream, trying to stop Kira, catch him, and put an end to him. He knew Kira had his own sense of justice, had what he believed in and a goal. And what L was trying to do was completely put an end to the goal, as if he didn't care about one's dreams. He also mentioned they seek friendship. He had mentioned to Light before that he felt like Light was the only true friend he ever had, acting as if he sought friendship from Light. Of course, this could just be him manipulating or trying to manipulate Light. The point being, L was saying when he gave the examples of what he was afraid of, the point is, L was trying to say that he was a monster and the only things he was afraid of were monsters. He probably doesn't understand fully himself and comes to the conclusion that he's a monster, maybe because he likes bringing others down, based on the examples he gave of why monsters are bad. He assumes Light is a monster just like him. However, this was actually wrong for him to think. I believe the entire time he was so obsessed with Light because he was evil himself. He believed that Light was a monster just like him, so he could relate to him, and Light interested him. We also see he goes after Light relentlessly, even though he has no proof, even though nobody else thinks that Light is Kira, sort of even at times being a little bit too unfair to Light, appearing kind of emotionless. He locked Misa and Light both up in a cell for over a month and lied to Light while he was in there, acting like Kira stopped taking lives ever since Light's been locked up, which did happen, but then after a while, with Light still in there, Kira did manage to start taking lives again, or lives started, it appears, being taken by Kira again. But still, he relentlessly tried to keep Light in there and tried to lie to him, like an emotionless, evil monster, even though logically it would appear most likely that Light's not Kira, or if he had a heart, he would probably have tried to be a little bit easier on Light and not lie to him like that, especially with Misa, because she was acting completely crazy and it appeared if as she was scared. You would have thought what L was doing was going too far, because if they were truly innocent, it was pretty messed up what they were having to go through. L didn't care though. L probably is also a detective and so obsessed with trying to find Kira because he feels like he's a monster so much himself, or he's so evil himself, that trying to do this and succeeding and eventually catching Kira would be something good. There's also been many times L maybe didn't straight up lie to Light, but he implied things in a certain way when he really meant things in a different way, or was keeping secrets from Light, almost manipulating or taking advantage of him in a way, trying to figure out if he was Kira. Also, Light believed what he was doing was right. He had a dream, while L's whole purpose was to put an end to Kira. And what would that do? Just put an end to Kira's dream. L knew that Kira was going after criminals. He thought that Kira had morals, but L didn't care and he just followed the law. L was so interested in Light that even after seeing nothing that would make him suspect Light of being Kira, other than if he is Kira, he's doing a really good job at playing it off, he still tried to go meet Light and interact with him, as if he was so curious in him just because he thought of him as someone like himself. Because L sees Kira as evil and like a monster, or Light as someone who always lies, he felt like he could relate. Even if he was trying to put an end to him being Kira, he seemed so obsessed because he was curious that Light was a monster, he thought, just like him, and he was putting an end to his dreams. And then the time he had Light's dad pull that whole setup experiment on Light and Misa as if he was going to take their lives because L believed that they were the Kiras, with them thinking they were about to die, which you could say is going too far because that can be traumatizing. And still, even after pulling that, L still believed Light was Kira. He acted like if Light passed that experiment, he would be cleared because Kira would have saved himself and took the life of his father, he believed. But Light didn't do that. The experiment was never to clear Light. It was just to possibly get proof to prove that Light was Kira, just in case he slipped up or happened to show that he was Kira, or if Misa was to slip up and try to save her and Light. Also, if he believed that Light was Kira so much, how come he let Light touch the Death Note when they caught Higachi to let him see the Shinigami, if he believed Light was already involved and likely Kira, because you could still possibly be aiding Light. L didn't know if the Shinigami was possibly on Light's side, and if Light had saw the Shinigami, let's say for example, he would make it help him if he was Kira. Obviously he got all his memories back from touching the Death Note, but this just shows that L didn't think of all the different possibilities and was far too hard on Light because he suspected him to be a monster like him without any proof of him being Kira, but then also at times acted like he believed there was a good chance he wasn't Kira, but still put him and Misa through all that. So do I believe L was evil? Maybe. Unless all those times he was acting sad and like he cared about something, he was just acting. I do think he probably wasn't evil, but I do believe that he considered himself evil and a monster. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.